So when it came to the issue of how trouser pants, you talk about the attire of the harlot, and we refer to Proverbs chapter 7 verse 10. So which means that the Bible recognizes what we call attire of a harlot, and this comes with a lot of explanation. We could ask, what is the attire of a harlot? And if we want to use our conscience, the attire of the harlot has to do with any kind of attire, be it on a man or a lady, that exposes your sensual parts, makes you look provocative, exposes you and makes you look sensual. I mean, an attire that commercial sex workers, it could be miniskirt, bare bags, they have names for such kind of attires, that actually attracts and bewitches man. And commercial sex workers and people who want to catch the heart of some men, they deliberately use those kind of attires. We have the miniskirt and what have you. And one particular one that slave queen use, we all know, is trouser pants on ladies. It's one of the tools of slave queens or commercial sex workers. One of their tools is the trouser pants. And because it is the culture of the West, certain men of God are trying so hard to fight against their own consciences, to go against their own conscience by using the Western depraved culture standards to define what dressing ladies should go into it or not. And that is very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. So it's more like once it is from America, it's okay. One is a global secular opinion, is okay. When the secular opinion became one with the mind of Christ, where is conscience? This is questions we must be honest about to answer. I have never seen a peak of hypocrisy in Christian ministry like in our time. The hypocrisy is terrific. And that is the reason why abomination have taken over the altar. Because the gospel has been redefined and has allowed the gospel of grace, hyper grace, all-inclusive grace. The gospel has been redefined into the hyper and the all, anything goes, And so as a result of that, sin and iniquity have grown horns like Baphomet, like the horn of Baphomet on the altar. And because of this, the sensual God and the sensual spirit has taken over, because the gospel has been redefined, I say again, to take spirituality for sensuality. So spirituality has been replaced with sensuality. So in other words, sensuality is now spirituality. And this is what has drowned the conscience of many modern day ministers. And I come out to say that when you look at the outfit of the Christian lady, and the majority of Christian ladies today, their consciousness or their passion is no longer the crave to emit holiness or to glorify God with their body, which was bought at a costly price according to 1 Corinthians 3:16-18. It's no longer the issue. It's about how I'm going to dress. The craze, the fashion craze is about how will I dress to look sexually attractive? How will I dress to look seductive in the eyes of men, and not how I look in the sight of God. And because of this craze that has taken over the race of men today, our ministers of our time, current ministers, most part of them, have fallen to the depraved systems of our world by trying to find a way, a ground of compromise to allow the ladies to go that way. Yes, it is not the trouser you wear or you don't wear that brings you salvation. That is very true, absolutely true. But hear this, we can't betray our conscience by using culture, biblical history, and all have you. I'll make this noise everywhere. We can't use these things to betray the conscience. They talk about all these things and they use all these arguments and they leave out what the conscience says. So here you mean we have, revered ministers, I would say, purpose, like the charismatic purpose, let me say so. So let me use the charismatic purpose. You see, they all struggle now in our time to nail the truth that goes with the conscience. And at some peak of hypocrisy, have used all this biblical history and culture across the world and civilization and secular opinions to wash the truth of the conscience away. And that's very sad. And you will see some of them who have become more worried and more concerned and more angry at certain group of Christians who have decided to go decent and to throw away the tool the slave queen used in slaying the men, which is a trouser pant. They try to throw it away and to look more godly and decent. You see ministers angry and going more vehemently against such group of Christians, and sometimes misquoting them to say that they are using modesty as a means of salvation. That is complete misconception over there. Because these believers have been taught to know that salvation is by grace. You understand? And not the other way around. Even though in every movement there are errors, we admit that some people could use that as a means of salvation, which is very good and sound to correct that. But when we correct that to the extreme, where it's beginning to look like we are endorsing self-centeredness and selfishness in Christianity by making people feel Christianity is about yourself and not about how you influence others, then we have missed the point. This is the frank truth that goes with the conscience. So, if our charismatic purpose are now dodging the truth of the conscience, right? Contrary to the legends of the faith, fathers of the faith we like referring to, but we don't preach their gospel, their kind of gospel that sanitize our world. People like the Whistling brothers, we look at John G. Lakes, we look at Catherine Coleman, we look at Maria Woodward-Eater, we look at John G. Lake, John Calvinist, these great reformers of holiness who came up with the Puritan movement. They will never, by their godly conscience, endorse what current ministers are endorsing and selling the conscience by force to the devil. So I come again by saying that our faith must go against the tide, not for the money nor for the fame. The world must follow the church, and the church must not follow the world. When did the mind of Christ align with secular opinion and the cultures of men? It's about the conscience. God bless you. Spread this message and let it go. Do not follow the multitude to do evil. God bless you.